Okay, in today's fun-filled video, we will be going over emergency brake shoe replacement on a WRX. This particular vehicle is a 2015 WRX STI. This procedure is the same for the 2015s all the way up through at least the 2023s. So getting started. Okay, go ahead and jack up the vehicle. I will show you where I jacked it up here in case you're not sure. So I put the jack right on this rear transaxle there, and then you can see the stands are right under the control arms. Okay, once you have it jacked up, guess what's next? That's right, take off your tire. After that, we're going to be removing the caliper. You're going to have an upper bolt, which you can see right here. If I get quit making a shadow, and then if you just follow it down around, you'll feel the other one right on the back side back here. They are 17 millimeter. The entire tool list will be in the description of the video. So for the love of God, before you post 20 questions, read the description of the video. The entire tool list is there. I try to do that to all my auto videos. Now, this is totally movie magic that I'm taking these out by hand. Obviously, they were tighter than this. Once you have your two bolts removed, go ahead and just set the caliper up out of the way. Don't let it hang by the hose. Plenty of room to tuck that in there. Now, to remove the rotor, some tips and tricks if these are stuck on: put your lug nuts back on and then hit it with a hammer in between them. The reason you want your lug nuts back on so you don't accidentally hit the threads and mash them up. So put your lug nuts on, not all the way, just enough to cover the beginning couple threads, and then smack it in between. If that doesn't work, the next best thing to do is put a 2x4 on the back side and hit it from back here with a hammer. And you do have enough room from the other side to give it a smack from the back side, and that will always knock it loose. Now, once you have your rotor removed, before we get into all this, check your cable function. Make sure your cable isn't dry rot, stretched out, or broken. So I'm gonna have someone operate the emergency brake handle inside the vehicle, and we're gonna make sure that the shoes are even coming out like they're supposed to. Okay, pull the emergency brake handle. Okay, go ahead and release it. So there we saw both brake shoes come out evenly, and they both went back in. So our cable is good. You can do a visual inspection underneath if you like. I'm not going to cover that in this video because we know that's not the issue. So now getting right into replacing these brake shoes. Okay, first thing we're going to do is take off the clips that hold in the pins. If you've worked on trucks before, you're used to seeing the round cup lock, in which case you would use this specialty tool. In this case though, we have springs. It's actually quite simple. If we just grab a hold of this with needle nose pliers, push in, and you can just turn it, and they will come right off. And here's another tip. How about you only tear apart one side at a time? This way here, when you mess it up, you can look at the other side and see how it's supposed to go back together. So go ahead and take the clip off the other side then. And next we'll go ahead and take these springs off the top. Trying to give you the best angle possible without obstructing the view. We can pull this assembly out. Now pay attention to how this here piece goes in there. And again, you have my video for reference. You can pause it and see what hole the different springs mount in. But again, if you just do one side at a time, you'll also be able to look there for reference. So now we just have the adjustment star down below to pop out here. And that just is going to come off. And then we have that spring that just fell off. Okay, now to get this here off. The e-brake, this is the e-brake cable here that goes to this bracket, and is what pulls on the shoes. So if you flip it around to the back side, you're going to see a horseshoe lock on there. And then there's going to be a little spring washer under that. Here is the best way I found for removing this. You can get it started with a pair of pliers right in here. You have to push on both sides of the horseshoe, otherwise you're just going to keep spinning it around. Here's how I found is the best way to get it off. Take a small pry bar, put it right against both sides of the horseshoe there, and give it a good smack with a hammer, and it'll knock it right out. Don't know how good of a view you're going to get on this, but for your entertainment, I will zoom out and you can watch me have a good time here. This can be like watching a monkey with a football, if you know what I mean. See if I can rest it on here so I'm not digging into my leg. You gotta kind of put it against something solid or it's just gonna keep springing back on you. Okay. So once you get it that far, you can then take a flathead screwdriver in here and finish pulling it off. There we go. Once you have that off, you're gonna have this thin washer, and then you'll be able to remove the brake shoe from the bracket. Now here's our new brake shoe, and you'll notice it doesn't have the pin. So you're gonna have to take the pin out of the old one and put it in the new one. This one just pressed out. If you have any issues, just hit it with a hammer and it'll pop right out. Now some of these have knurls on them. On some vehicles, these are just smooth and just go right in that hole. So now the bracket goes just like this here. So orient that to your new brake shoe so you know which way to put the pin on and which way it's going on there. Go ahead and put that pin through there, and then make sure you have the bracket flush on the brake shoe so you have access to the groove that the washer goes in, and then that lock pin. So we're going to put our washer on there, and then our little horseshoe clip. And this is a lot easier to put back on than it was taken off. Just make sure it's all the way on there like that. And then you can use your needle nose pliers to squeeze the horseshoe back together to lock it on there nice, because it's been spread out now that we took it off. You don't have to go to town, just make sure it's not going to fall off. So now that we have that done, we can go ahead and put on this first spring just to help hold this in there. And I almost put it in the wrong hole. It goes in the square hole at the top. Okay, so now for this contraption, you'll see the spring has a leg on one side and a hook on the other. So the leg's going to go in this round hole right here below the other spring, and then the other half gets hooked right in here. And then you'll see the groove in here where that goes. Okay, it's seated nice and good. Now for the other one, another thing with these springs is one has a little wider opening than the other, so just see which way it fits on there. And then we're going to hook that spring on there, and we'll let that one hang. Now let's go ahead and put in our locking clamp to our holding pin. And you see how the clamps go. You see that rectangle opening, so I want to make sure the pin is oriented in the right direction. Up and down. And then, if you've got long enough hands to reach all the way around the back, this is a lot easier. You're going to line it up there. Put your needle nose pliers right in that groove that's in this spring piece. Grab a hold of the pin and just turn it 90 degrees, and it'll rest right in there. That easy. So now we'll go ahead and do the other side. There we go. Like I said, this side will definitely help if you have somebody to hold this or hold the pin from the back side. I'm a hero. I was able to get through it. Here's a fun one. Now that we just got that clip on, I have to take it back off because I have this brake pad, or this brake shoe rather, in upside down. Make sure you have them facing the right way. And I'll show you here in a second why this is wrong. See this right here? That's supposed to be at the top. That's where the other side of this fits in. So, not a lot of extra work. Just have to take it, flip it around, put that in there like it's supposed to be, and then put this spring back in there. So I guess I'm not a hero after all. Now we get to do it again. Now the last pieces I can see laying all over the garage floor is this adjustment star. So clean this off real good if you want to soak it in WD-40 and get it all cleaned up. And then make sure it's adjusted all the way in, because we're putting new pads on here, so it shouldn't need adjusted out much. But again, make sure you get that cleaned up so it moves nice and free. And once you have that all done, the part that screws out is going to go to the front side on the passenger side of the vehicle. And then that just goes right in here. You see the two flat spots at the bottom of the brake shoes. After you get the adjustment star in there, you're going to put your spring in, and it goes in the round holes right above the square holes at the bottom. And if you've ever worked on truck drum brakes, this isn't near as bad as those. None of these springs are under a ton of tension. Stuff doesn't typically go flying all over the place, taking out eyeballs and causing all kinds of havoc. And that's it. So now, I'm going to have my lovely assistant pull on the e-brake cable, make sure everything's functioning properly. Go ahead and pull on it. Yep, go ahead and release. Now we're not done yet, so don't go turning off the computer or your phone or whatever else you're on. Before you go buttoning everything back up, make sure you check the adjustment of the e-brake star, that adjustment star we were looking at. You may have to adjust that out. Now the emergency brake shoes ride on the inside of your rotor. Just like a rotor can be turned for your calipers, the inside of the what they call the drum can be turned as well. It's not really necessary on an emergency brake because it's typically only being applied when you're at a standstill. You're just bringing it out to make contact to hold the vehicle from rolling. There we go. Now I want to make sure I can move that freely, and I can. Go ahead and put the brake on. And that's not moving at all. Now obviously there's no weight on it, but that's good. So this is already adjusted. We're good. That's exactly where it should be. Something else you can do to keep your rotor from sticking the next time you take it off, you can go ahead and apply some anti-seize on that mating surface where it mounts up on here. That'll keep you from having to beat it off the next time you have to get in here to change your brakes or anything else. I say there's no such thing as too much anti-seize. I love anti-seize. Nuts, bolts, I'll throw some on my pancakes in the morning just to help with the digestive tract. Not really, kids. Don't go telling your mom that Redneck Tech said to go ahead and put anti-seize on your pancakes. I was being facetious, but you get my point. There. So go ahead, and I like to put a little anti-seize on here as well to keep the tire from sticking, because you know how sometimes you have to mule kick your tires off. Go ahead and replace your caliper, and you're done. That's all there is to replacing the emergency brake shoes on your WRX. Really hope this video helped you out. If it did, hit it with a like, subscribe to the channel. My son just got this car, my daughter has a WRX, and her boyfriend has a WRX. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more WRX stuff coming. So subscribe to the channel, and I thank you for watching.